This latest YouTube story exposed the social workers at London Borough of Ealing, such as Verona Maltman, Tracy Walrond, Mandeep Merbay, Beth Shawyer, and Rifat Awan, were being reported to the Audit and Investigation for Fraud and Corruption. In this regard, inadvertently failed to update subject access data requests for over 1 year, breach Section 165 and Section 173 of the Data Protection Act. This include Article 16 of the GDPR since June the 28th, 2022. The social workers from London Borough of Ealing were involved in racketeering, influence, and corrupt organization, Rico, contrary to the Fraud Act 2006, POCA, Proceed of Crime Act 2002, and Bribery Act 2010, contravene the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, also breach Section 165 and 173 of the Data Protection Act and Article 16 of the GDPR. The social workers breached Article 11 under the European Convention on Human Rights, inadvertently failed to produce documentary evidence by claiming exemption from being regulated. They were allowed to operate unregulated in their job on the Care Act Assessment 2014 under the Freedom of Information Act 2000, and this include breach Section 165 of the Data Protection Act and Article 16 of the GDPR 2018 on February the 17th, 2021. The social worker were involved by covering up the abuse of the service user's rights on the ground of his disability and race, committed fraud under the Fraud Act 2006, abused their positions. This include bribery and corruption under the Bribery Act 2010, and racketeering, contrary to the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization, Rico. Further breach Section 173 of the Data Protection Act and Article 16 of the GDPR 2018. In addition, Verona Maltman and Mandeep Merbay, the social worker, discriminated against the service users on the ground of his disability and race, inadvertently failed to make reasonable adjustment, breached the Equality Act 2010 under Section 6, Section 20, and Section 149, the Autism Act 2009, Section 3, and the United Nations Conventions on the Right of Person with Disability, and the United Nations on the Right of Older Person. Also further breached the European Convention on Human Rights, Article 11 on February the 17th, 2021, a serious allegation against Ms. Maltman and Ms. Merbay, which they operated being unregulated in the employment, never followed procedures on the subject above. Verona Maltman, the social worker, committed racketeering, fraud, abuse, corruption, and bribery under the Proceed of Crime Act 2002, the Fraud Act 2006, and the Bribery Act 2010. Contrary to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, this include racketeering and conspiracy to the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization, Rico. Breach Section 165 and Section 173 of the Data Protection Act and Article 16 of the GDPR with the employer London Borough of Ealing Social Services. Ms. Maltman and Ms. Merbay breached the Autism Act 2009, Section 3, Equality Act, Section 6, 20, 149, the European Convention on Human Rights, Article 11, the United Nations Convention on the Right of Person with Disability, and the United Nations Conventions on the Right of Older Persons, infringed Section 165 on the Data Protection Act and 2018 and Article 16 of the GDPR on February 17th, 2021. Verona Maltman and Mandeep Merbay, the social workers operated being regulated in the job, bribed the service user, also abused him on his right to dignity under the European Convention on Human Rights under Article 3 and Article 8 on February the 17th, 2021. In third, we don't recognize the service user's Caribbean heritage of his Windrush background, which we are admitted of being racist and denying him his right. This include bribing him with corruption and breaking such law. We can force him to accept the council managed care package. This includes reablement, which is 2 hours per week. This has been sanctioned by the Director of Adult Social Services to cover up the abuse. Also, we can offer him a bribe. We can cheat and win by corruption. Verona Maltman, the social worker at London Borough of Ealing, part of the multidisciplinary team on the behalf of the then CCG, now renamed as the ICB, involved in the DST, committed racketeering, fraud, corruption, bribery, and abuse toward the service user as continued discrimination since July the 27th, 2021, breached the Equality Act 2010. Verona Maltman and Mandeep Merbay, the social workers for London Borough of Ealing, have breached Section 165 and 173 of the Data Protection Act and Article 16 of the GDPR, which the employer, London Borough of Ealing, were found guilty by the Information Commissioner Office for previous infringement of the Data Protection Act 2018, and GDPR also failed to implement the action plan, which was ordered by the ICO in this result.